The coffee machine hissed like a distant train. Steam curling up in lazy spirals, filling the air with the rich, bitter scent of fresh brew. I, Helen, sat in our usual booth at Joe's Diner in downtown Seattle. The kind of place where the vinyl seats creaked under your weight and the jukebox played old Springsteen tracks on loop. It was just another Tuesday morning. The city awakening outside with the hum of traffic and the faint patter of rain on the window, typical Pacific Northwest weather. I was 28. Teaching high school English. Buried in lesson plans about Hemingway and lost dreams. Across from me was Irene, my roommate of 2 years. 30. With her paint-splattered jeans and that artist's gaze that could strip you bare. We'd met through a Craigslist ad, practical. Unromantic. Or so I thought. Then she did it. Without warning, Irene reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine as she slid a napkin toward me. On it, in her messy scrawl, "You're the plot twist I never saw coming." My heart stuttered. What the hell? We'd been friends. Sure, late night talks over cheap wine. Her laughing at my bad puns. Me admiring her sketches of the Puget Sound. But this? This was a grenade in the quiet of our routine. I stared at the words, the ink still fresh, and felt a rush of heat climb my neck. Irene. What is this? My voice cracked. Barely above a whisper. The diner noise fading into a dull roar. She leaned back, her green eyes locking onto mine. A small smile tugging at her lips, but there was vulnerability there. A flicker like the first crack in a dam. Helen. Come on. You felt it too, right? The way we linger in the kitchen. The excuses to stay up talking. I'm tired of pretending it's nothing. Her words hung in the air, heavy with the unsaid. I pulled my hand away, the touch lingering like a phantom ache. Panic surged, me, the straight-laced teacher from a conservative family in the suburbs, suddenly confronted with this? My mind raced. What about our friendship? What if it ruined everything? The mauve of her lipstick, the way her blonde hair caught the light, it all hit me like a scene from one of those indie films. Raw and unfiltered. I bolted from the booth, mumbling about being late for work. The bell above the door jingling mockingly as I stepped into the drizzle. Seattle's streets blurred past, umbrellas popping open like black flowers. The salty tang of the bay mixing with exhaust fumes. My phone buzzed in my pocket, Irene's text. Please talk to me. I ignored it, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. By lunchtime, guilt gnawed at me. In the staff room, surrounded by the chatter of colleagues and the microwave's beep, I replayed the moment. Her gesture wasn't just words on a napkin, it was a confession. A risk she'd taken in the broad daylight of our ordinary life. And deep down, hadn't I felt the spark? The way her laugh made my days brighter. How I'd catch myself staring at the curve of her neck when she painted. That afternoon, after classes let out, the kids' laughter echoing down the halls like distant thunder, I drove to her studio in Capitol Hill. The place smelled of turpentine and wet canvas. A chaotic haven of half-finished portraits and scattered brushes. Irene was there, perched on a stool, her back to me, dabbing at a landscape that looked suspiciously like our view from the apartment balcony. Irene, I said, my voice trembling. She turned, paint smudged on her cheek, eyes red-rimmed. No words, just a sigh. Deep and weary, like the wind off the sound. I freaked out, I admitted. Stepping closer, the wooden floor creaking under my shoes. But that napkin. It shook me because it's true. I'd been scared to admit it. The air between us thickened, charged with the hum of unspoken desires. She set down her brush, the clink echoing softly, and stood. Helen, I didn't mean to blindside you. But life's too short for what-ifs. Remember that road trip to Portland last summer? The way we sang along to Fleetwood Mac. Windows down, rain in our hair? That felt real. I nodded, tears pricking my eyes. The memory flooded back, the cool mist on my skin, her hand on the gear shift, our voices blending in imperfect harmony. It wasn't just friendship, it was the kind of connection that poets chased. But Mouthwan hit harder now. My family, devout and traditional, would never understand. What about everything else? My job, my parents, they'd disown me. My words came out choked, the fear raw like an open wound. Irene crossed the room, her steps deliberate, and cupped my face gently. Her touch was electric, sending shivers down my spine. We don't have to figure it all out today. But denying this? That's the real tragedy. Her breath was warm against my skin, carrying the faint scent of lavender from her shampoo. In that moment, The world narrowed to us, the distant honk of a ferry. The soft drip of rain from the eaves. I leaned in. Our lips meeting tentatively at first. Then with the urgency of pent-up emotion. It was like coming home after a long storm. Every nerve alight. The days that followed were a whirlwind. A montage of stolen glances and whispered confessions. We navigated the chaos, late-night walks along the waterfront. The crash of waves mirroring our turbulent hearts, awkward dinners where we'd brush knees under the table. Hiding smiles. But the conflict peaked one evening in our apartment. The city lights twinkling like stars through the window. My phone rang, Mom. Her voice tinny and concerned. Helen. Honey. Who's this Irene you keep mentioning? Is she special? I froze. The receiver heavy in my hand. Irene watched from the couch. Her expression a mix of hope and dread. I took a breath. The air thick with the aroma of our half-eaten takeout, Chinese from the corner place. Mom? Yes. She's more than a friend. I love her. The silence on the line stretched. Broken only by a sharp intake of breath. Helen. That's not how we raised you. The words stung. A dagger twist. But Irene's hand found mine. Squeezing reassurance. We hung up. And I collapsed into her arms. Sobs muffled against her shoulder. It hurts, I whispered. The fabric of her shirt dampening. She held me. Rocking gently. Her voice a soothing murmur. Pain means we're alive. Helen. And this, us, it's worth it. That night? Under the glow of string lights in our living room. We talked until dawn. Unraveling fears like threads from a sweater. Irene shared her own scars, coming out in college. The friends lost. The strength gained. It deepened our bond. Turning vulnerability into armor. Months later. On a crisp autumn morning. We stood at Pike Place Market. The bustle of vendors and the fishmongers' calls filling the air. Irene slipped a simple ring onto my finger, a promise. Not a proposal yet. From that ordinary day to this, she said. Her eyes shining. I smiled. Heart full. The small gesture echoing back. Life wasn't perfect, family tensions lingered. Whispers at work, but we'd chosen each other. In the end, it wasn't the grand gestures that defined us, it was the quiet ones. The ones that shook the heart and rebuilt it stronger.